All right, what's up, YouTube? Back at you with another video, another quick take. I got my main man, my partner, my brother here.
We back like we never left. The most charismatic man, the Prince of Fresh Air, no baby oil included.
All right, so we've got a situation here that I definitely wanted to come and talk about. So we've got a video, not an article, but a video posted by a channel called The Art of Dialogue. And the video was titled Dr. Umar Goes Off on Cassie Being Able to Testify Against Diddy. It says she has already been paid off. Now, I had the whole entire quote from the video, which Dr. Umar Johnson says. So he says it should be absolutely illegal for Cassie to testify against Diddy. When he paid her off, I believe there was an NDA off in that situation. He was paying her off to shut up and go away. For all the money he paid her after signing an NDA, how can she then be brought back into court to testify against them? It reminds me of Bill Cosby. Some of those women who lied on Bill Cosby during his sex abuse cases had NDAs, and the court let them break the NDA. You never see this with a Caucasian accused of the same. His lawyers should do all that they can to fight against Cassie testifying. And just to let y'all know, Cassie has already been in court testifying for like 2 or 3 days straight. He said he is not being charged with crimes against Cassie. He is charged for crimes against others. Why is she being brought back into court after taking that man's money and testifying against him? An excessive and abusive use of the law. I don't condone sex abuse, sex assault, but at the same time, I stand for justice. He's already in jail. Y'all didn't give him bail, which I also think is a violation of his constitutional rights. We want to make an example out of Sean Puffy Combs. He was too confident, he was too big, and it was time for us to bring him down. The Carmelo Anthony case, the Shadura Sanders case, the Shannon Sharpe case, they are all involving the same basic issue. Black people need to stay in their place. Sean Puffy Combs, you have no business being a multi-billionaire mogul suing a multi-billion-dollar liquor company. I'm having a hard time believing he's guilty of sex trafficking. I don't know about the racketeering. I've never been in the bad boy office. The only thing I see him being convicted of is the prostitution payment. I do not see the sex trafficking. I do not see the sex abuse. All right. So basically, when it came to mind for this to be a topic of discussion, I brought it to your attention. And you said that this was going to be one of the few instances where we do not agree. So I want to get your thoughts and your disagreements on, I guess, why you agree with Dr. Umar Johnson.
All right, so I already know people gonna have their opinions, but I look at it this way because I watched Dr. Umar video on Art of Dialogue. They have amazing discussions on that platform. Shout out to them. And he made a good point. Now, I know people might say, well, he did the crime, he did the time. The question is, what crime is he being committed? Is he on trial for? This is not a domestic violence case where he would be clearly guilty of. They're talking about sex trafficking and all types of stuff. And I do think there is a conflict of interest because not only did you get a lump sum of payment and probably signed an agreement about it, now you get to testify as well. And what is the point of her testimony? Now, I have been following it, and I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to point to a pattern of his behavior. But what behavior is on trial? Is it his sex parties? Now, I know people might be disgusted about what he enjoys in his sexual life, but then again, there's a lot of people in this world who are into kinky stuff like he's doing. So does that mean anybody who's guilty of doing the same type of things he do, should they be on trial? That's a whole nother conversation. But I think why I agree with Dr. Umar is because I do think P. Diddy's more on the stand for what he's been doing behind closed doors than what people think he was doing. Because if this was a straight up domestic violence case of, you're beating and battering women, yes, he's guilty. He's clearly guilty. I ain't nobody denying that. But I'm hearing her on the stand, and she's talking about how she helped him get women and men for these parties. So for me, it's like, how can that's like me and you robbing a store, you know, and I beat up the owner of the store, but you testify against me with no charges filed against you, even though we both robbed the store. Like it doesn't. Like I said, I'm not saying she's guilty of anything. I'm not saying that whatever abuse she suffered against P Diddy um, is something that is she deserved. But at the same time, what is the purpose of her testimony? She already got paid out. She already settled. Why are they bringing her back? Because the crux of this case is not about domestic violence. This is about sex trafficking and all types of stuff. And I'm not saying he's innocent by all means, but it seems to me this trial so far has been, let's publicly put his personal life on blast. And I'm watching the trial and I'm seeing the video. Well, I didn't see the videos, but apparently they've been showing his sex party videos in the trial. That's not a crime. If he wants to, get 1,000 baby oils from all types of Costco and Best Buy or whatever, and have these freak off parties with other consenting adults, I mean, I'm not going to do it. But you know what? At the end of the day, he's someone who has a lot of money, a lot of influence. People want to be around him, and a lot of people have those same sexual, desires that he have. What is the purpose? But before I continue, I want to hear your opinion on it.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I just want to preface my response and my rebuttal to not only you, but also Dr. Umar Johnson. But I do want to ask you, and this is, I guess, not necessarily a rhetorical question, but I want to know. So, do you feel like Diddy should be free right now?
I think that he should have been granted bail. I mean, at least given a chance of bail.
Okay. All right. So let me respond to you, but also Dr. Umar Johnson. And I wanted to make sure that I was armed with the facts before I got on, microphone and gave my, 2 cents, because I wanted to make sure I was, I was locked and loaded. All right. So first of all, Dr. Umar Johnson said that when he paid her off, I believe that there was an NDA off in that situation. He was paying her off to shut up and go away. For all the money he paid her after her signing an NDA, how can she then be brought back into court to testify against them? Okay, so now let me break it down. So here's the purpose of an NDA. This is going to be long and drawn out, but I just got to give the facts not only to you, but a lot of people who are misinformed and really just kind of going off of firsthand information. Not necessarily saying you are, but just in general. So it says the purpose of an NDA. NDAs, or non-disclosure agreements, are legally enforceable contracts that create a confidential relationship between a person who has sensitive information and a person who will gain access to that information. A confidential relationship means one or both parties has a duty not to share that information. Non-disclosure agreements are also known as confidentiality agreements, confidentiality disclosure agreements, and non-disclosure contracts. You may encounter one at the beginning of a business relationship or large financial exchange. For example, an employer or client may ask a new hire or contractor, be mindful of these words, to sign a confidentiality agreement to protect the organization's sensitive data. An NDA specifically focuses on an individual's or organization's information privacy, which differs from other business contracts like service or sales agreements that focus on the terms and conditions of service or transactions. Be mindful of the verbiage that I'm using, which is new hire and contractor, conditions of service or transactions. Now it says identifying protected information. By drawing a line between what information is confidential and what can be shared, NDAs classify information. This allows parties to work freely within the boundaries created by the confidentiality agreement. Protecting sensitive information. Signing an NDA creates a legal obligation to keep sensitive information confidential. Any leak of that information is a breach of contract. And it says protecting patent rights. These are just examples. So because public disclosure of a pending invention can sometimes void patent rights, an NDA can protect an inventor as they develop their new product or concept. Okay, so those are just the examples. Now, here are the limitations of NDAs. So enforcement challenges. Enforcing an NDA can be challenging, particularly if the information has already been disclosed or if the scope of the NDA is too broad. Even if a breach of the NDA is identified, it can be difficult to prove damages or obtain an injunction. Here's the loophole. Here's why, in this case scenario, if she did sign NDAs, it is null and void for public interest. In some cases, there may be a public interest in disclosing certain information, such as in cases of illegal activity, public health and safety, or government transparency. NDAs cannot be used to prevent the disclosure of information that is in the public interest. Therefore, if there is because this man is facing 5 felony charges: racketeering conspiracy, and 2 counts of sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. What she knows, which was previously, or according to Diddy, confidential information, it is now of public interest. That NDA is null and void. So that's not even in the conversation, because NDAs do not protect illegal activity. So if you commit a crime and I know about it and I get subpoenaed, that NDA can't protect that information anymore, because now it is in the public interest of the government. Okay, so everything that Dr. Umar Johnson is saying is null and void cap. Okay, so don't even bring up the NDA as far as that's concerned. Now, let me respond to a lot of y'all that are saying that, oh, as for the information that's being revealed and what Cassie is saying on the trial, she's only talking about domestic violence. This is not a domestic violence case. This is racketeering, right? Sex trafficking and, transportation of prostitutes, basically. Now, let me break it down for y'all. Let me break it down, because this is why I do the quick takes, to enlighten and to educate. So the definition of sex trafficking is the recruitment, harboring, transportation, provision, obtaining, patronizing, or soliciting of a person for the purpose of a commercial sex act, in which a commercial sex act is being induced by force, fraud, or coercion, or in which the person induced to perform such act has not attained 18 years of age. Okay, forced labor is the recruitment, harboring, transportation, provision, or obtaining of a person for labor or services. Okay, so meaning this dude has been recruiting, harboring, transporting, obtaining, patronizing, and soliciting people for the purpose of commercial sexual acts. All right, and we already know freaking Cassie's has been a victim of that. Okay, so then now prostitution, and this is according to nycourts.gov, and it says, under our law, a person is guilty of prostitution when such person engages or agrees or offers to engage in sexual conduct with another person in return for a fee. If any prosecution for prostitution, the sex of the 2 parties or prospective parties to the sexual conduct engaged in, contemplated, or solicited is immaterial, and it is no defense that such persons were of the same sex, or the person who received or agreed to receive or solicited a fee was a male, and the person who paid or agreed or offered to pay such fee was a female. In order for you to find the defendant guilty, are y'all listening? In order for you to find the defendant guilty of this crime, the people are required to prove from all of the evidence and beyond a reasonable doubt the following element. In the county of such and such county, the defendant engaged or agreed or offered to engage in sexual conduct with another person in return for a fee. So basically, there has to be evidence that, like, I paid a girl to engage in sexual acts with me, so I solicited her. That is prostitution. That is prostitution. All right. Now, why Diddy is guilty, in my opinion, of racketeering conspiracy, 2 counts of sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. Now, I have 6 reasons backed by facts. So, reason number 1, Cassie was not only a personal girlfriend of Diddy, but she was technically an employee of Bad Boy. Cassie signed a 10-album deal with Bad Boy and only released 1 album in 2006. And Diddy vetoed any sort of job opportunities that he didn't approve of that would result in a conflict of interest. In a typical artist record label relationship, artists are contractors that have professional freedom. So meaning if I'm signed to Interscope Records, I'm just signed to Interscope Records. I can do whatever I want. So if I want to appear on Good Morning America, they have no say in that. That has nothing to do with them. But in Cassie's case, she couldn't do something like that if Diddy didn't approve. So like I was saying, the business relationship between a label and an artist mainly has to do with the recording of an album, promotion, and eventual release and distribution. Cassie recorded hundreds of songs, and very few saw the light of day outside of one mixtape and sporadic singles that were released. And she wasn't compensated for the uncompleted and unreleased 9 albums. Cassie had no control of any aspect of her life whatsoever and wasn't able to make any decisions without Diddy's approval, feedback, or retaliation. Therefore, what transpired between Diddy and Cassie is an abuse of power in the professional realm because he resorted to threats, violence, and bribery. She wouldn't have been able to leave Bad Boy without the fear of retaliation. That is racketeering. Because like I said earlier, racketeering is a set of illegal activities aimed at commercial profit that may be disguised as legitimate business deals. Racketeering is defined by a coordinated effort by multiple people to repeatedly earn a profit, typically by fraud, extortion, bribery, threats, violence, or other illegal means. Diddy made money off of Cassie. Cassie didn't make any money off of Diddy. She didn't make any money off of this guy. That's racketeering, ladies and gentlemen. That is racketeering. So if y'all just think that this is just a domestic violence thing, no, this is racketeering. This is an example of that. Reason number 2. Diddy tried to bribe a police officer. This, and I'm just quoting because this is what I got from the article. This is an email sent by LAPD officer Israel Flores, who previously worked as a security officer at the Intercontinental Hotel in Century City, Los Angeles. He was the first witness to give evidence to the trial, telling the court on Monday how he was on duty on March 5th, 2016, the day of an alleged physical attack on Cassie Ventura by Sean Combs. Footage of the rapper running down a hotel hallway, which is, I guess, the footage that we ended up seeing, and then appearing to beat Miss Ventura outside of a lift, wearing only socks with a towel around his waist, has been played in court. The video was first made public in May 2024. Now we have details of an email Mr. Flores sent about the incident. It includes pictures of what looks like a smashed vase, which was spoken about during his evidence, and details how he received a call at 11:14 a.m. to reports of a distress call on the 6th floor of the hotel. Looking at security cameras, he says he could see a black male wearing only a towel walking back and forth. When he arrived at the floor, about a minute later, he says he realized the man was rapper Sean Combs, aka the Diddler. In the email, Mr. Flores says Combs began yelling at Miss Cece. This is what Combs called Miss Ventura, he says, and that he advised them to separate. As he told the court in his testimony on Monday, Mr. Flores says in the email that Combs offered him money. That is bribery. That is racketeering. Okay? Because she was attempting to flee from a freak off. That is why he came out in a towel with no clothes on and just socks. After checking on Miss Ventura, he says in the email that he and another member of staff went back to Combs's room to let him know damages will be charged to his room. When Mr. Combs came out, he was about to start yelling, still in his towel, the email continues, but the 2 staff members stopped him before he did and advised him that we were not there to make it bigger than it already was. Here's the kicker. Combs saw the other staff member holding his phone and automatically assumed he was being recorded, so he grabbed his hand, the email says. He was then told no one was recording him, that the safety and the privacy of the guests is important to the hotel, and if he tried to do something like that, he would get kicked out and escorted out of property by LAPD. Combs then calmed down and apologized after this, the email says. The rapper apparently told them, it's just that I don't want to lose anything and I can lose it all. So therefore, he attempted to engage in bribery to disguise illegal activity, because it is illegal to assault somebody, especially one of your contracted employees. Reason number 3, Bad Boy wasn't just a record label, but also a private adult entertainment company. Because Bad Boy was an entertainment company that was just doing business as Bad Boy Records. And you can go on the Wikipedia page. You can check it out because it's called Bad Boy Entertainment, DBA. So for those of y'all that don't know, if I have a business Like, okay, so let's say if I have a business called, you know, freaking Percy and Sons, okay, but then the DBA is Percy Transportation. You see what I'm saying? So that means the actual business paperwork on the account is Percy and Sons, but publicly it's known as, you know, Percy Transportation. So the public knows that company as Bad Boy Records. So people are automatically assume that, oh, this is just a record label. No, it's Bad Boy Entertainment. It's an entertainment company. So therefore, it just wasn't a record label, but an entertainment company that privately planned, hosted, and recorded freak-off events and solicited sex workers and prostitutes to do so. And they even found some of these people off of Backpage and Craigslist. That's how far they were willing to go. See, Cassie's role was not only to participate in them, but also to solicit the escort workers themselves and to facilitate payment to them, which could be as high as $5,000 to $6,000. Cassie, an employee under contract, attempted to leave a freak off during the hallway footage and was quickly subdued by her employer and boyfriend, Diddy. The point is further substantiated by the fact that all of the video evidence that has been shown in court is all adult X-rated content that Diddy's lawyers didn't want to be shown. So, meaning everything that they have to show literally points to sex trafficking and prostitution. It's not like they have regular stuff of him just sitting in his living room talking. No, everything is technically pornography. You know what I'm saying? But they don't want it to be shown because it points to the whole reason why he's in court to begin with. So courtesy of Sky News, it says, before yesterday's hearing got underway, lawyers for Sean Combs asked Judge Aaron I'm not even going to pronounce that last name, to carefully edit what kind of explicit material is shown in open court, saying much of it amounts to X-rated content. There is no aspect to any of the videos, end quote, the government is looking to put into evidence that is not X-rated content. That is what it is. People who are nude, having sex, or about to have sex. Defense lawyer Mark, I'm not even going to pronounce his last name, some random shit. It's a privacy issue and it's X-rated content. What would the press do with it if they had it? The freak-offs later became a job, Cassie said, taking priority over her music career. But she feared violence if she said no, telling the court that Diddy had guns in New York, Los Angeles, Miami, and Alpine, New Jersey, which would come out time and time again as a scare tactic. Okay, so now let's go back up. So just for y'all who keep thinking that this is just regular domestic violence, no, it's not. Okay, because racketeering is a set of illegal activities aimed at commercial profit that may be disguised as legitimate business deals, typically by fraud, extortion, bribery, threats, and violence. If you work for me and my company front-facing presents itself as a record label or some sort of legitimate business, but there's multiple dimensions to it, and all of my employees are afraid to resign and walk away because of fear of violence, bribery, and retaliation, that is called racketeering in the business realm. In the personal realm, yeah, if that would just be just considered domestic violence if they didn't have a ongoing business relationship, but they did. All right, now let me go on, because again, I'm just going with the facts. So at this point, Diddy, with just Cassie's evidence alone, is a confirmed racketeer and sex trafficker and has on many occasions solicited prostitutes. NDAs cannot save a person from illegal activity they were engaging in and harmful acts they inflicted onto other people. Reason number 4. See, I came with the receipts. Reason number 4. Day 26's Q made similar comments about Diddy and his time with Bad Boy. Cassie would say of Diddy that he was charming at times, funny and polarizing, where Q said, and quote, what I witnessed was a sober Sean and a regular Sean. When he was regular, he was cool and giving, invite you to dinner, feed you around his table. Then I saw a high Sean, and he's very dangerous. He's in jail because he's a danger to himself, and he's a danger to the world right now. There's a lot of people that are scared that didn't come out in the beginning. That is racketeering, bribery, threats, and violence. You want to know why? Because all of these people he's talking about are people who are either artists, former artists, current artists, former business associates, former romantic partners, etc. You see what I'm saying? Roger Bond, who was a security guard for Diddy, corroborated the allegations towards Diddy. And Q knew him personally, that Diddy would lock himself in the room with Cassie and binge on hardcore drugs, and the freak-offs would occur. And they would have to take IVs. Q also said that things felt very sacrificial. He said, and quote, when you're under a power, and it felt like he said, and it felt like some sacrificial stuff was going on. It felt very scary and weird to the point where I ran to get help. I went to my doctor. If this is true and I come up missing, I want you guys to know facts and the truth of what I'm going through. He said that he has to get an injection in his arm every month for the rest of his life. He is now schizophrenic and bipolar. He experienced thoughts of not harming himself, but being harmed by Diddy and his minions. He said, I really lost myself for years, talking about how he was walking around freaking Rochester, New York, for real. And I even seen in the comments that somebody said they even saw this dude years ago walking around Rochester. He said, I don't understand why somebody would sit around and think about hurting someone or sit down and laugh about it. I'm not here to expose anyone, but none of them are innocent. And we're not even talking about a woman. We're talking about a guy in a popular boy band, grown at this point now, a whole grown man. That whole entire group was crying in tears. He didn't even divulge, everything. Grown men, mid-30s, early 40s, were crying because of their experiences with Bad Boy. What does that tell you? Off rip. He knows something that we don't, and that's why even at this point with Diddy even being behind bars, he still doesn't even feel comfortable saying what exactly happened. He can only imply because, hey, based off of public, support right now, or the partial general consensus, people are like, oh, this is only domestic violence. Yeah, he should get out. No, this man is a danger to society. He shouldn't be out in the streets. He should not be out in the streets because people like him. How many times have I said in quick takes, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And in fact, I even probably said that when we talked about this the first time, because Diddy is somebody who has had a lot of power that the average person will never experience in their lifetime. Because power is the ability to have influence, to exert control over your life. Not only can he exert control over his own life and his own circumstances, but the circumstances and lives of other people. And he's been abusing that personally and professionally. Therefore, that makes him a racketeer. Reason number 5, Dawn Richards and Aubrey O'Day both worked under hostile conditions under Bad Boy. Dawn and Aubrey were both members of Danity Kane up until the group broke up. Diddy, both on and off camera during filming of Making the Band, would make suggestive, disrespectful, and inappropriate comments about Aubrey, and subsequently fired her because she didn't want him to control all aspects of the way she looked and behaved the way that Diddy would with Cassie. And y'all can go and watch Making the Band 4, the last season, and look at the arguments between him and Aubrey O'Day. Check it out. It's all there. Mad controlling, mad disrespectful. You don't talk to your artist like that, because in reality, if you're signed to, let's say, Arista Records, you know what I'm saying, or Def Jam, you don't work for Def Jam. You work with Def Jam. They can't talk to you any kind of way. They can't tell you what to do. They can kind of give you a suggestion, but they're only there to help you finance the recording and the release and promotion of your albums. That's not their job. But on Bad Boy and in an entertainment company, the rules of engagement are different. Dawn was hired to join Diddy's group, Dirty Money, and this is right after Danity Kane broke up. So they all broke up. He fired, all the other girls and said, nope, Dawn, I actually want you to join my group, where they released an album and went on the Diddy Dirty Money tour, where Q, who was dating Dawn at the time, was also on tour with them. Dawn would say that Diddy made hostile comments towards her and said that he owned her and that he was her father. And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, because I didn't go and look at that, but Diddy almost instigated a whole altercation with her pops. That's how disrespectful this guy is. And when we talk about power, when you feel like you have power with somebody like that and nobody can check you, you're going to bug the fuck out. You're going to be bugging out. No one can tell you nothing. She also witnessed Diddy physically assault Cassie at a dinner attended by other celebrities. And she said none of them intervened. He was bugging out. And nobody did anything. Went upside her head. No one said anything. I don't know if, I'm not even going to say who was there, but basically it was mad celebrities that the both of us would know. He would force them to record and rehearse for long hours without food or water. Diddy would even make contestants on his show, making the band, and he did this multiple times, walk from Midtown Manhattan, and you from the city, you know how far this is, from Midtown Manhattan all the way to Brooklyn.
Yeah, that's a hike.
On camera, humiliating them to purchase a cheesecake for him in hopes that he would sign them as artists to his record label. So you see the lengths that this guy will go to exert control over people. He's like, yo, I know these people are hungry. I know, they broke. I know they struggling right now. So I'm going to make them do wild shit at the notion of being able to put food on the table and change their lives. And again, a lot of these people didn't even make it on the show. He made them do all of that. All of that. That is inhumane. If I tell you right now, you got to walk from Midtown all the way to Brooklyn and back just to buy me a cheesecake on camera. And you could go and look this up. Like this isn't fake. You can go on YouTube and you can see this guy humiliating these people on camera because it's like I know you haven't eaten in a week, and I have a loaf of bread and you haven't eaten in a week, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I know you're hungry, bro, and I know you want this this piece of bread, but show me how bad you want it. I want you to go in the trash right now, and I want you to eat some of the trash to show me how hungry you are. That's the type of person Diddy is. That is the type of person Diddy is. Okay, this is the type of person that people are like defending and going up against. Like, no. Because let me tell you something right now. If you are a man and you're willing to put your hands on a woman, there's not too many other things that you wouldn't do, because there's no coming back from that. To me, as a man, personally, you stomping on a woman, you're stomping on her face, you beating her up, all types of shit. You're making other men urinate in her mouth, and then like if she doesn't want to do it, you're gonna whoop her ass for that. Come on, man. Like I cannot excuse that. Racketeering, sex trafficking. She is a victim of sex trafficking. This is not domestic violence. This is sex trafficking. That's sex trafficking. And this goes on. Reason number 6, Diddy would only give artists their publishing to earn income from music they released under his label if and only if they signed an NDA. Sounds familiar, right? Sounds familiar, don't it?
Yep.
So that they wouldn't be able to disclose what they saw. Because as of today, right now, day 26, they don't make any money off of their music. And is that fair? That's not fair. Oh, okay. So I know you want to make residual income off of your music, but I'm not going to let you do that unless you sign an NDA. So you will never reveal to people the messed up shit you saw me doing and saying to other people, and possibly to you too. Because you know who makes money off of their music to this day? Artists such as Day 26, Chopper City, Danity Kane, and all the other artists that got put on the shelf. Their music is instead owned by Diddy's sons, whom receive money for their recordings instead. So if you want to know how, his sons are living lavish lifestyles and all that other type of shit, is because they're earning residual income off of labor they didn't put in. That is not fair. That is not. And the only way, Diddy will make things right is if they're not allowed, legally not allowed, according to that NDA, I mean, which we already know is null and void now, because again, if it's a public, that doesn't, if they never reveal the truth of his criminal behavior, which is freaking sex trafficking, racketeering, domestic violence for you motherfuckers out there. No, I'm not saying you personally, but I'm saying just in general. And all types of, wild ass shit. You know what I'm saying? And that's not right. And again, I could keep going. This is just the facts and presentation that I typed up before we got to this point where we're recording right now and speaking about this. So with that said, does this change your opinion in any way, shape, or form? I'm very curious.
Yeah. I got 2 words for you. Take that. No, let me stop.
Yeah. Take that. That's the path.
Master, take that. Master, you got to take that. Take that.
Hold that. As a matter of fact, hold them backs. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, no, go on, man. I want to hear.
No. I think. Well, first of all, let me just say, I always thought this dude was a scumbag. I feel like we've been seeing the downfall of a lot of famous and rich people, in the entertainment industry over the last 10 years, and rightfully so, because there have been a lot of people abusing their power, using their money and their resources to make people do things they don't want to do just because they have the ability to do it. Um, I would just say you're 100% right. I for me, always thought that he deserved jail time. I'm pretty sure. I'm not one of those people who thought Diddy was just some nice choir boy who got jammed up because he's rich and famous. No, I'm full aware. I'm full and aware of what happens in this business. We both actors. We understand how this business goes. We see it all the time. Um, I think, yeah, you did shed some light on stuff, and when I said I disagree with you. I meant in a more in the sense that Dr. Umar made some good points. I feel like for a lot of people, they're judging him based off the freak offs, which everybody's making jokes about. I get it. I
They're
make jokes about
illegal.
him.
That's
Yeah.
illegal.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's
But this
illegal.
opens up.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
shit is illegal. You know what I'm saying?
no, you're right.
People
Yeah,
trying to
let me
minimize. I'm gonna let you finish. I'm just saying. People are trying to minimize it, like, oh, this is just stuff that people do behind closed doors. No, what he was doing is illegal. But go on.
You're right, and I think this trial, and this is probably one of the reasons why he didn't take a plea deal. This going to open up a Pandora's box. There's going to be a lot of people who get their name thrown out there. There's going to be a lot of people facing some potential criminal charges as well, because he's not the only one guilty of these parties. Like you said, there's been celebrities watching what he's doing, attending his parties, allow him to do the stuff they did, even some of them participating in what he's doing. And I think this is why this trial is so huge and so important, because not only does it show that no matter how much power or status you have, you can be taken down, but it's also going to shift the industry as a whole. Because I'm telling you right now, you think if he's going down, he's going by himself? Absolutely not. And so I think that, I'm one of those people, when it comes to cases like this, it gets tricky for me, not because I think Cassie's a liar or anything, but oftentimes we see, and a recent example, Shannon Sharpe, we see people deal with celebrities, allow certain things to happen because they want the money and the fame that comes with it. And then when things go left, they now want to start throwing out, oh, he did this to me, she did this to me. And I think this case is one of those actual very few cases where I actually do believe that, she's not just up there in line. And I think that's one of the problems with this case, is that we've seen so many cases beforehand. Bill Cosby, for instance, people talk about that. We've seen it with Johnny Depp and so on, where a lot of these people getting accused of certain things, but then it turns out people are willing participants, but then the money dries up and they don't want to deal with them no more, and then now they want to throw out all types of crimes. I'll just say this: the FBI, what's the prosecutor? The FBI?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, the FBI, racketeering.
Who's prosecuting him specifically?
No. Like, what organization? It's the FBI, right?
What? That's bringing charges against Diddy?
Yeah,
I would have to look that up.
I believe so. If it's racketeering, yeah, that's definitely like some type of FBI.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. So he's going to jail.
But he's already in jail in Brooklyn right now.
No. What I mean is he's going to jail. Like,
okay.
Yeah, like he's in jail because he got no bail, but he's going to jail. Meaning, there's no. I feel like at this point for him, the only reason he could maybe skate, and this could be another OJ thing, because yeah, he might be guilty to a lot of people, but there's a lot of people with a lot of bad past and bad mistakes taking that stand, who now have to own up to some of the things they did, and it could potentially change the outcome of this case. I'm not exactly saying that he's innocent at all, and I'm not saying he's getting away scot-free. But what I am saying is there's a lot of celebrities who will be sleeping with one eye open, because their names are going to get thrown out. The people who are testifying, a lot of them are going up there. I've been reading some of this stuff. Shout out to the Breakfast Club, Lauren. She's been doing a great job reporting on it. No, there's people up there lying. You know, they was lying to the police before, and now they up there swearing to tell the truth. And it just like these cases are just because when you tie money, power, and all of this into it, it becomes so convoluted. And I think that's why Dr. Umar was speaking about it, because I think during the midst of all of that, I think the crux of this is the sex parties. And some people might say, hey, P. Diddy is a pervert. He uses money to exploit women and men, and he took advantage of them. But then you also have the other camp that says, well, there were celebrities in those parties. There were people who were willing participants who wanted to participate in these free calls with the baby oil. And now that he's in jail and he might rat them out. Now they're trying to run back and save face. So for me, I think this is going to be a very interesting trial. I'm actually kind of curious to see how this plays out, but I do think we're going to see a big shift in the entertainment industry going forward.
Give him the chair. Give him the chair. Lethal injection, all of that. I don't want.
He's not getting no chair. He's not getting no chair.
And let me also say this too, because I had a thing for Lori Harvey. You know what I'm saying? And this man has been around her, and I know she's probably kind of denied any, dating them or whatever, but that's close enough. All right. Okay. She was in danger. I don't know. She probably had to do what she had to do, because this is a dangerous dude that we're talking about here.
What are you talking about?
Personal. So this shit got personal. You feel what I'm saying? So I just had to say that real quick. Shout out to Lori Harvey. You know what I'm saying? She's, anyway.
This guy.
But yeah, man, the proof is in the pudding. I mean, there really is no debating that. No one could come in the comment section right now, and I challenge you to. Anyone who's listening that's like, oh yeah, no man, you did it. No, everything I said was cold hard facts. The man is guilty. The man is guilty. He's on the chopping block, and I want to see him get chopped, beheaded. Like, yo, honestly, if there was like if we was living in Coliseum times and all that shit, and then like they were like, yeah, so Diddy's gonna be executed at 4 p.m. via the Lions, then I would be front and center watching everything, blood, gore, all of that. Because I just don't like the guy. I really don't like him, especially when you hear the story about Kim Porter and how I'll Be Sure is really the father, of their son or Diddy's stepson, whatever. And then how she was in perfectly good health, but then mysteriously, when she was right about to drop a tell-all book, she just up and dies. Kid Cudi had a little relationship with Cassie, and then his car, gets set off in his driveway, explodes. You don't think this guy has the means to do these things? Again, power. If you have power, you got money, and all you have to do is just offer somebody life-changing bread to shut the fuck up. People are gonna do it. Like, all I have to do is just not say anything. Oh, all right, cool. Give me $250,000. Give me $500,000. Give me $1 million. He thought that, oh, if I cut the check to Cassie, all of this is just gonna go away. That's nope. That opened up the floodgates. And what did I say? All of that came out. She filed a lawsuit on Wednesday. Let's say Thursday. By the next Tuesday, he had already settled out of court, because he thought, oh, if I just cut a check, my racketeering and sex trafficking and prostitution, all that's just gonna it's not gonna come to light. And it did anyway, because there were other people that came out. She's just the first person. She's just the most recognizable name. This trial is going to go on for 2 months. Just think of the amount of people that are going to hit the stands talking. She's just the most recognizable, and already, he's done in my book. They're lucky I'm not on the goddamn jury, because if I was, I'd be like, yo, why are we even still doing this? Because the proof is in the pudding right here. I don't care how much money he's got. I don't care how many fans, whatever. And let me also say this too. A few dick riders out there. Diddy is not a pioneer of hip hop. Diddy didn't do anything for hip hop. So he's not a legend. He's not nothing to hip hop. He's literally just a record label executive that signed artists to 360 deals. If you know what a 360 deal is, which for those that don't, I'm gonna just give you the quick rundown. A 360 deal is this. If I sign you to my record label, okay, I pay for your promotion. I pay for basically everything that relates to you being an artist. I put up 100% of the money. Okay. But then that means all the money that you generate from all your artistry, I'm getting all of that. So it's like whatever it is that I'm putting in, I'm getting it all back from you. So if you make anything at all, you're going to make all of that money from touring. but I have a say in everything it is that you do. So if you want to go, if you're signing my record label, Percy, and you want to go ahead and do a movie, I have to sign off on that. Okay, I get to determine how big your budget is, the producers that you get to work with, all of that stuff. If I feel like I don't want you to put out an album, you could just not put out an album. That's how a 360 deal works. And that's why, yeah, 360 deals work, you know, when you're hot and all of that, because it's like you sell a you put out an album that does double platinum. All right, I didn't make enough, I didn't make any money off of the release, but because I'm hot, I'm gonna make money on tour. But then once that album, you know, once your career starts to wane, where's all that money? You're not making anything. And then I, as the executive, I could just put you on the shelf and be like, oh, you know, all right, you know, you're done. And then keep you under contract, but you're not allowed to sell any albums. So then that's why you see a lot of artists, they're still signed to record labels, but all they really do is do shows here and there. It's rare that an artist can get out of a record label contract when they still owe the label 5 more albums or 10 more albums, because typically that's usually how it works. A record label, they're going to sign you, but then they're going to say, okay, all right, you hot right now, so we're going to sign you to a 7 album deal. We're going to sign you to a 10 album deal. And again, most artists, they don't even make it that far. Most artists, like groups or solo artists, whatever, usually at best they have 3 albums, maybe 4, before again, like the, you know, the pot, you know, turns cold. And then, you know, if they're lucky, the label say, okay, you know, we're just gonna let you out your contract. And then most labels, they're gonna be like, no, you staying. You know what I mean? And then again, you're not gonna be able to do anything anywhere else. Like look at Carrie Hilson. It's like just now she's starting to come out and release music. Why? Because contractually she was stuck for a long time. So when you see artists, they fall off and they don't release any music, you know why? Not necessarily that they're signed to 360 deals, but contractually they're really not allowed to do anything. It's the same thing with actors back in the 30s, you know, 20s, 30s, and 40s, when they had studio deals. If you were signed to MGM, you couldn't go and do some shit with Columbia. You couldn't go and do something with Paramount because you had a studio deal with them. So you can only do movies when they want you to do movies. If they don't want you to do anything, you just won't do shit, and they won't let you out your contract either. You know what I'm saying? Because they're like, yo, we don't want you to go and do a movie with them. You know, so if you're not in my good graces, if you don't want to sit on the casting couch, I'm not putting you in anything. And look at how things went with bad boy artists. You know what I'm saying? Like, who is the, like, what, like, give me one artist other than French Montana that has anything good to say about Diddy. Name one. And then the biggest artist, the real pioneer of hip hop that put Diddy on the map was Biggie. And the rumor is that Biggie wanted out of his contract with Bad Boy. And what happened? Clipped. And based off of everything I said earlier, would you really put it past this guy? Would you really put it past him to take advantage? You know what I'm saying? To like write it in the contract that, yo, you know, if he dies, then 100% of the profits of his music is going to go to me and not his mother, you know, Mrs. Wallace or some shit like that. The same thing happened to Michael Jackson. So you don't think that would happen to Biggie Smalls too? Because same thing with Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson didn't want to be with his entertainment lawyer, and he fired him in 1990. And right when he died, that same entertainment lawyer just somehow, you know, got back into the fold because he somehow changed the documents of his will. And then he situated it so that way, in the event of his death, John Branca could then, you know, take over as executor of his estate. And that's why he's in the position that he's in. How was it if I fired you in 1990, you're all of a sudden back into the fold in 2009? People take advantage all the time. So Diddy is a guy that takes advantage of people sexually, emotionally, mentally, financially, professionally, all types of shit. All types of shit. He probably told Steve Harvey, well, you know, I'm not even going to say that, but basically, you know what I'm saying? He was taking advantage of Lori Harvey, and I don't like that shit. And I'm glad nothing happened to that girl, as far as I'm concerned. And if I ever meet her one day and she says something happened, me and Diddy, we'll have another problem again. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I could go on, but the goal was, you know, for you, specifically for me to give you the facts and thus inform you on what's happening. So somebody were to ask you again, like, you know, oh, so what you think about the Diddy case? You could say, no, that motherfucker guilty. That motherfucker guilty. Yeah, he can probably get off somehow, whatever. I hope not. Because like I said, he needs to be in jail for a very long time. Just like how Suge Knight been in jail because Suge Knight was bugging out back in the day. I don't know as much about Suge Knight as I know about Diddy, but he was bugging out. People like that, they need to be behind bars. You're not allowed to be you know, in regular society with the civilians because you are a risk. Just like how they went and got him, apprehended him because they were like, yo, this nigga's a flight risk. He probably gonna leave and go to Cuba somewhere where we can't go and get him because he has the money to do it. He's a flight risk. He is a risk. He's a danger to people because now he's in jail. So now you see Al B. Shore coming out and doing interviews and stuff like that. But he wasn't talking all that much when Diddy was out. No, because it's like, oh shit, if I talk, you know, shit about him, he could probably easily put 2 million on my head. And niggas gonna take it. 2 mil? Because remember, what did I say? All you have to do is offer people life-changing bread, and they're going to do what they got to do to get that life-changing bread. Because think about it. I'm not saying like you would do anything crazy, but really put yourself in the shoes of somebody who is potentially offered $2 million. Just think of how many doors would appear in your mind if you were offered $2 million. Now, really process that. Really process that, Percy. Like, I want you to really sit on that and like marinate in that idea, because then you're going to realize the people who are probably in dire straits in life, you know, probably like the typical goon, like, yo, bro, I don't even know how I'm going to feed my kids right now. I got 3 baby mamas and all that shit. You know what I mean? I'm just a gun for hire. And then this nigga's offering me 2 mil just to get rid of this dude. He going to take it, especially if Diddy is going to assure him, is going to, you know, give him guarantees that he'll be fine. Or if he does get caught, he's like, you know, bro, hey, you're only gonna have to go sit for a couple years or some shit like that, or go ahead and sit for 10 years. When you come out, I got you. You don't think things like that have happened all the time?
Oh yeah.
Come on, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, yo, like, I'm not saying me, but just the ideology of, all right, yo, I don't like this motherfucker, man. So you know what? Okay, cool. You know, go take care of that. 5 mil. If you get caught, all right, don't even worry about it, bro. 10, 15, I got you when you come out. Your family, while you in there, you don't have to worry about your family no more. I got them. The niggas gonna be like, cool, because I was doing it to feed my family anyway. You dig what I'm saying? So this is what I'm saying. And again, I used to respect Diddy because he was successful. But if you're a success and I find out you're you know, sexually assaulting women, beating women, you know, taking food off of people's, you know, table, artists that work really hard up under you, releasing 2 albums, day 26, and they don't make any money off of that. That's not fair. That is not fair. And you're really just doing it to make sure that you're good and your people is good, but it's like, yo, they can't eat. That's not right. I don't respect that. Because if I was Diddy, it's like, yo, no, like, I mean, I'm successful. I'm technically worth $1 billion. Why do I need their chump change? Because my kids can eat off of my revenues alone. So then let me make sure, you know, that my artists, because I signed them, I should have at least some sort of decency. Like, all right, your publishing is yours. You should be able to eat off of that, however much they would probably make. You know what I'm saying? It's only right. This is not a respectable businessman. Oh, but he's, you know, successful black man. No. I'm just as pro-black as Dr. Umar Johnson, Pan-Africanist, all of that. You know, but at the same time, I'm not going to support evil, heinous acts just because a nigga is black and successful. We can't keep lumping, you know, Diddy, R. Kelly, Shannon, Sharpe, you know, these guys all in the same category and say, oh, they were going to make this big, Bill Cosby, they're going to make this big business move. And then this is why they're getting caught. No, you're getting caught because you actually did dumb shit behind closed doors. You did dumb shit and you got caught. This is why I was saying before in the other quick take, you know, that we did, I was like, yo, it's really about how you treat people at the end of the day. If you do right by people, people aren't going to have bad things to say about you if you stayed in pocket when you was around them. So if a nigga, if somebody asks my last girl, like, oh, well, how was Dimitri? What can she say about me? I just tried to, you know, to treat her the best way that I knew how, the best way I knew how. You know what I'm saying? She can't say, oh, I disrespected her, I ever yelled at her, I hit her, none of that shit. You know what I'm saying? Because that's how you get caught out. DDG just came out, you know, today, same thing in the news. You was putting hands on your girl. It ain't, oh, DDG is this successful streamer and she's just trying to out him because he's black. No, you're getting outed because you did her wrong. And we're in an era now where if women have receipts on you like that, you're going to get caught up legally. Whether it's a criminal case or a civil case, it doesn't matter. You're still getting caught up and your name is getting dragged in the mud. I want to be like Denzel. No one's talking about me like that. I want to be like Samuel Jackson. No one's speaking of me like that. Idris Elba, same thing. I want to be like them. I'm known for my craft and my work, people don't know too much about me. And what they do know about me is how I treat people respectfully, how I treat them the way that I want to be treated. That's it. But these guys, Shannon Sharpe, Diddy, and all of them, it's like they get money, and then it's not enough just to have a beautiful, fine black woman. That's not enough. It's not enough to just have access to any woman you want. Then it's not enough. You got to start choking chicks behind closed doors. You got to start doing freak offs. You got to start peeing in people's mouths. You got to start giving, chicks quaaludes and all that stuff. Like, come on. That is the definition of excess. Literally, like, stay in pocket. And that happens to guys that, again, they didn't have a whole lot of success with chicks when they were coming up. So when they finally do get in that position, they go crazy because they didn't know what it was like before. You know what I'm saying? They're not grounded. So you lose yourself, in drugs, alcohol, sex, all types of vices and shit like that. And there's nothing wrong with having vices, but there is something wrong with domestic violence. There is something wrong with racketeering. There is something wrong with prostitution. Okay? It's not just, oh, I'm a sex worker. No, you're a fucking prostitute. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what it is. You're traveling, you're being, solicited, crossing state lines for the purpose of sex acts. Bad Boy is an entertainment company that also serves as a private, or that also served, because they ain't doing that shit no more, that served as a private adult entertainment company because these freak offs were recorded. So just because, something isn't released doesn't necessarily mean that it's not an actual, you got what I'm saying? It doesn't mean it's not an actual company. So if I'm recording things privately for my own personal use, you know what I'm saying? If I'm directing it, quote unquote, and I'm paying people for that, I'm a private entertainment company. That's what it is. X-rated entertainment company at that. Adult entertainment company. X-rated adult entertainment company. And I do not respect this guy. And I'm also going to say this too. With the exclusion of his daughters, because they're minors as far as I know. Anybody that's close to this guy and you stand by him, you're only standing by him because of the financial benefits. Because if you get cut off from Diddy, your lifestyle is not going to be the same. That is the only reason you see anybody standing by this dude right now. And I was having this conversation earlier. If your mom is a 9-to-5er, and Percy, answer this question because I'm asking you. If your mom is a 9-to-5er and she makes $30,000 a year, and your father is a multimillionaire, who are you hanging out with? Who are you going to be spending the majority of your time? Like, just, and let's just take, as of right now, let's just take the crimes out of the equation. The racketeering, the prostitution out of the equation. Who are you going to be hanging out with more?
Probably the millionaire. The
multimillionaire. Why? Give me your reasoning why.
You're going to have access to things you can't get.
Exactly. And that's the only reason why his sons, because again, these niggas, they're in their mid late 20s, early 30s. You know what I'm saying? They know what's going on. And remember, I said this before when we were talking about Diddy. Tyrese supporting Diddy. I said, yo, there's no way that you live with this guy and then you don't know what's going on, because they live there. That's why I said they live there. Y'all know what's going on, but again, because your dad is sending you Zells, you know what I'm saying, or sending you wires for $50,000, $100,000 a year, son. Go have some fun. Yeah, go have some fun. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. That's pretty much what it is, because they don't have to work. What do? They don't do anything. They don't release music. They're not actors. They're not anything. That's what they do, because they're mooching off of him. They're not Jaden and Willow Smiths where they have careers, and they're doing their thing outside of their parents. No, they don't do anything. They just benefit from him. So they have to stand by him, because even right now, as he's in jail, they're still benefiting from him. It's not like that, you know what I'm saying? He's in jail, so they're not making no money. They're still making money, residual income, all of that. So this is what and I can't.
I would just say though, to be fair, like I see people bring about his kids showing up and stuff, and it's twofold. Like, I think, there's
talking about his sons, but I'm not talking about his daughters.
Oh, no. But I think anybody who, whether your parent or your child did something wrong, like there's people who's done some of the most heinous acts you could ever think of in your life, and they still get their family support, because at the end of the day, your mom, even if you committed some of the most egregious things humanity has ever seen, your mom will still be saying,
No, she
he's a
wouldn't.
good boy, you know.
No, she
So
wouldn't. No, she wouldn't. No, she wouldn't. And my mom told me that my whole entire life. If I go to jail, I'm asked out. She told me that shit my whole motherfucking life. And you can go to the MDJ podcast, I think episode 4. I think it was called State of the Country or some shit like that. I said that at the very end. Okay. I'm not calling because she ain't helping. Okay. So that, you know what I'm saying? And my counter to that is right is right and wrong is wrong. Okay. If and this is just me, and you know I have unorthodox opinions on family anyway. But if my dad is, you know, my father is, I find out he is, you know, a racketeer, sex trafficker, soliciting prostitutes, and I know that goes totally against all my personal values as a person, because we all have different sets of values, and that was actually something that I learned, you know, over the past couple of weeks. Like, what are my values? You know what I'm saying? Like, if I had to list my values, what are they? You know what I mean? And if what he's doing is contrary to those values, I will not stand by this guy. I'm not, especially if you're, not only are you accused, but I know you're guilty. I'm not standing by this dude. I don't give a damn who it is. Okay. Because I mean, it's like I said, you know me, and I've said this so many times before. Will Smith, I will go to bat every single time for Will Smith. Like, when people talk shit about him, I get offended. I feel like they're talking shit about me. That's how much I look up to this guy. But like I said before, if he was doing Harvey Weinstein heinous acts, I don't think I could bash him publicly, but I couldn't stand by him because that goes against my personal values. Okay? Because something my granddad be saying, you know, blood is thicker than water, so is molasses. It don't matter. It doesn't really matter who you are. Yeah, we could be related, but you're still just another human being at the end of the day. So if you commit a murder, you shoot somebody, if you shoot a civilian innocent in front of my face, or because you're my dad, I'm gonna help you clean it up. No, ain't got nothing to do with me. No, that's you. I'm not going, because at that point, if Diddy's my father, and remember we talked about Marquise Jackson, 50 Cent's son, if you're my dad and I've been benefiting, you know, from you for X amount of years, my whole objective as a man is to live on my own and to do my own thing. I shouldn't need my pops in order to survive. So if I still need this guy in order to upkeep my lifestyle, then there's a problem right there. There's a problem right there. And I already said that Diddy's the type of guy anyway that like always wants to be number one. So he always wants to be the man. So that's why, you know, Lori Harvey probably got next to this dude anyway, because his son was with her. He probably seen her. He's like, oh, damn, she's a baddie. I got to have her too. No, you can't have my girl. Because when I didn't even get along with my pops right now. I didn't even get along with this dude. I didn't even talk to this guy. So needless to say, if I had a father like Diddy, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work because I have a type A personality. He has a type A personality. You can't put a lion and a tiger in the same cage and expect them to eat from the same plate and coexist. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. You know what I'm saying? I don't like using the terminology, but you know how they say like alpha males and all that shit. Like, it's not going to work. You see Godzilla and King Kong, you got two alpha titans. They bump heads. Godzilla beat him because he's the alpha. He's the leader. So if it's a team, I'm not saying I'm not a team player, but I got to be the leader. You know what I'm saying? And a guy like him who wants to be the most successful, the best looking, you have everything. I can't be up under a guy like that. I want my own shit. It might be less than yours, but at least it's mine. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, you know, Diddy.
No, you're right. But you know what? A lot of times that's easier said than done for some people because, you know, if you can get to where you're trying to be without doing half of the work, a lot of people are taking that chance. And, you know, that's just the reason why so many people like Diddy, Harvey Weinstein, some of these other people who had successful careers who ended up getting caught is because a lot of people look at them and they want to ride their coattails. They want to be where they are. And they let them do whatever they can because I want to be next to P. Diddy, and I think that's why I'm glad about this stuff is happening because it's been, you know, so many times these stories have been told and they've been swept under the rug because who are you? You talking about P. Diddy like that? You know what you're talking about? Like that's P. Diddy. Now
Fuck him.
it's like
Fuck him.
You know, it's
Fuck him.
You know, the dark, but they always said in the Bible, the dark, whatever happens in the dark always comes to the light. And we're finally getting to that point where everything in the dark is starting to come into the light. And this is just the growth and the progression we needed because This is not just the Me Too movement. This is just a revolution against just evil. You know, men being assaulted, women being assaulted, children being assaulted, and finally they get their voice heard, and you know we can finally get some get these deviants out of here. Like Cat Williams said, all these deviants are catching hell, and they're
Well,
finally getting their just due.
well, let me do speak to that a little bit, or let me speak to that a little bit. Um, do I think that what's happening to Diddy right now is going to all of a sudden turn, Hollywood or the entertainment industry into this social construct of righteousness and fairness? No, because what I do believe is that when you get rid of somebody like Diddy, somebody else steps in his place. And something that Jaleel White said, where he was talking about television specifically. There's a lot of gatekeepers in television, so there's a lot of things that will and won't happen at the behest of said gatekeeper. And I think somebody like Diddy was a gatekeeper. You know what I'm saying? You hear about a lot of artists, that were coming up, famous artists at that like, they were seen by Diddy before they got hot. Like Usher. He went to Diddy's house when he was 13 years old and had to spend a week at Diddy's house or some shit. Soulja Boy said that, Diddy tried to sign him when he was coming up. Chris Brown, oh yeah, I tried to sign the Bad Boy, before I came up. You see what I'm saying? Like these guys, he's a gatekeeper. He is a gatekeeper. And again, I think I might have asked you this years ago, or one of the last times that we talked about this, but I said, well, and answer this question, because like, how would you feel if, you were offered a role or you auditioned for a role, got the call back, they were like, cool, we like you. But we're actually gonna we need you to come to a party at Diddy's house, and then you go to Diddy's house, and then they want you to stay late, 2 a.m., 3 o'clock in the morning. What are you gonna do?
I'm going home.
And let's say, bro, this is a Marvel role. This is DC superhero shit. Change your fucking life. Guaranteed. Not even the old Justice League, DCU. Talking about the James Gunn, the new shit, bruh. The new one that's getting made. MCU, James Gunn, DCEU. What are you gonna do?
Me personally, I'm not selling my soul for nothing.
There you go.
No matter how bad I want something, because I've seen one of the things I've seen is when you lead yourself out of desperation into something, nothing good ever comes out of it. And I'm not stupid to know, at 3 o'clock in the morning while everybody's asleep, what are you doing at another person's house you've never been to? Nah, I'm good.
Cause y'all all at the parties like, yo, man, you like baby oil, man. What you think about baby oil, Johnson & Johnson? Some shit. You looking at your phone like, yo, it's 3:45. It's 3:45 in the morning, like, you know what I'm saying? And then again, like, yo, you be seeing certain people at Diddy's house, and it's like, yo, why are they there? All of these people, especially like now, when you see people, you ask them about Diddy and they act like they don't like this guy, but then you just Google that person's name and Diddy, you see mad pictures with him. That was your boy. That was your man's. Oh, but now you don't like him because it's safe to dislike him now because he's in jail. But what does that say about him? He was a gatekeeper. Because the entertainment industry is literally like high school. It's a social construct. You want to get down, okay, cool. You got to be cool with certain people. You have to conform, pretty much. It's conformity. You have to align yourself with the behaviors and beliefs of said people in order for you to benefit from them. And then if you don't, you're not going to get in, or you're only going to get but to a certain point. And that was like that. Because again, it's not even just with women, okay? Because you can see him sexually harassing men too. Hearing mad, weird ass stories about him and men. Come on, man. And it's like I said before, it's like, yo, I want nothing to do with that. Because like you, again, I'm not selling out. Because the scariest thing for me is two things. It's like you compromise yourself, because all selling your soul is doing something that is basically contrary to your values for money or some sort of opportunity. So let's say if you're like, I would say one of my personal values is freedom. And then now I know that I'm going to be, foregoing my personal agency over my life, you know, for a role. And now I know that I'm not going to have that same freedom of speech or freedom to do whatever it is that I want to do, or to think how I want to think, or say what I want to say, because I just chose to align myself with this for this sort of income. I won't be able to sleep at night. I won't be able to brush my teeth and look at myself in the mirror and be happy with what I see in return. And the thing is, there are certain things that you do that you'll never be able to come back from. Because, yo, did you see the thing with Terrence Howard? And he was talking about Diddy? Same thing. Same thing. Because he was like, yo, he was talking about, like, you know, doing gay shit and shit like that. But he was saying, he was like, yo, like, that's just one thing that you do that you will never be able to come back from. Like that, he was like, yo, like your manhood is like not up for sale, because you will never be able to get that back if you sell that shit. You will never be. And he was saying, and I've said this before, like it wasn't even like Terrence Howard had to say that for me to even believe this, but it's like that's why you see a lot of motherfuckers getting strung out on drugs and alcohol. You know, they drown themselves in these things because they can't sit with their own sober thoughts. So they rather be high all the time to escape from the shit that they did to get to where they got to. And God, Diddy, they promote that. Like, oh, what you willing to do? Hey, yo, bro, hey, get that cheesecake. All right, you want to get signed to Bad Boy? Just what you're gonna have to do. If one of my values is authority, let's say, for example, authority over myself, then I can't do that. I'd be selling out if I let a nigga tell me, yo, I gotta walk 50 miles to I don't think Brooklyn's like 50 miles, but you know what I'm saying? It's far enough. You know, 20, 50. Well, how many miles is Manhattan to Midtown to Brooklyn? I was probably like a good 15. That's like a good 15 miles. Yeah. I can't do that. Absolutely not. I couldn't do that if that was one of my values. Because my thing is my life is not money at all costs. Because again, you can't take any of those things with you. And in closing, because you know we've kind of been talking for a while, but I was talking about relationships in my last video where I was talking about the different characters from Power, Raising Kanan and shit. And one thing I said was, again, about relationships, personal relationships, is what people value most about other people. Like I would say, like, let's say what a son would love most about his mom or his father, his grandma, his grandpa, aunt and uncle, you know, boyfriend, girlfriend, what they would gush about them or sing their praises about has nothing to do with materialism. It has nothing to do with the tangibles. You know what I'm saying? So it's like if I have a girlfriend, you know, what I would love most about her is shit that I can't put a price tag on. That's what makes our relationship worth it, worth investing in. Because what I love about her, it's like I can't buy that. You see what I'm saying? So when it comes to life is not about tangibles. It's about the intangibles. Because what you can take with you is the memories, you know, people's memories of you, because that's all energy. So it's like I have like great memories. If you have great memories of me, that's energy. That's real currency. You get to take that, you know, into the next realm, into the next life, whatever. Good karma. That's intangible. But if I get a Lamborghini, I love Lamborghinis, right? But I can't take that with me. You know what I'm saying? They're not gonna build a big ass ditch and then bury me in my Lamborghini. Like, no, they're not gonna do that. They're not gonna do that. The closest thing we've gotten to being buried with, you know, the stuff that you have is like pharaohs and shit like that. You know, they used to put them in the, you know, gold, you know, freaking sarcophaguses and then bury them in there. And then, you know, just to show, you know, the wealth that they represented at that time. So yeah, it's not worth it because again, all of this shit I can't take with me. So it's like, yo, when you're in the hospital bed dying of natural causes, you know, God willing, it's like you're gonna be thinking about the life that you lived. And it's like, damn, yo, like you don't want to think back in your life like Kanye West is right now, talking about the shit that he was doing with his guy cousin when he was 6 or some shit like that. Like, no, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then this is why you see them act like that, and they start to regress and spiral, is because all of the things that happened to them earlier in life, they start to come around. Because even me, it's like at this point in my life, is you get older and I start to see that you look back on your life with more clarity than you had when you was younger, because you're more mature, you have more wisdom, so you can see things from a different lens, a more clear lens. You know what I'm saying? Not like a colored lens, but a clear one. So if you used to look at your life and romanticize your childhood, you get older, you be like, damn, yo, like from an adult lens, you're like, yo, my childhood wasn't even all that. You know, now because I'm looking at it as an adult, like if I had a child, I wouldn't want him to have a childhood like that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It just wouldn't be worth it, you know, when it's all said and done. And don't get me wrong, like I'm somebody that, yeah, I want power for sure. Like what guy doesn't? I'd be lying to you if I said like, oh yeah, like, you know, I don't want to have, you know, like prestige and power, because I do. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't. But at the same time, it's like prestige, power, and influence at what cost? You know, that's the question. It's like, well, what are you willing to do to achieve those things? And there's certain things that aren't worth compromising, because you got to ask yourself, well, what is it that you really want? Is it, you know, my artistry and my craft and to be the best? Or is it a dollar amount and a certain amount of people that like me? You know what I mean? And take it from me, being somebody that I have a following on you know, YouTube now, is people like what you do more so than liking you for who you are. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and I always said that anyway, like, you know, I become a success, I can't really invest in the good things that people say about me, because we already seen, look what happened to Will Smith. People can just as easily turn around and say you're the scumbag of the universe because you were human, you made a mistake. I mean, I didn't think it was really a mistake, but you get what I'm saying. But societal, you know, lens, he made a mistake. He slapped somebody at the Oscars, but he was, you know, like one of the crown jewels of society. People will probably do the same thing to Denzel. You know what I'm saying? Let him do something bad enough. Everybody loves Denzel now, right? And then all of a sudden let him step out of line. Then they're gonna bash him just as much as they were, you know, praising him. I can't invest in that. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll just say real quick, you know, what's the price? Like you said, what's the cost? Well, the cost is a thousand bottles of baby oil at Costco. But you know, as we wrap this up, I'll just say, you know, P Diddy, all these people who are abusing their power, they're going to get their just due. When people have been skating by, living free, and you would have thought after the whole R. Kelly thing, people would have, you know, change their ways. But like you said, it's hard to change an old dog with new tricks, and people get comfortable in their life and they think they're untouchable. And P Diddy is a prime example of, just because you're successful don't mean you're untouchable. We will get you and we will catch you, and when we do, you will be treated just like an average person. And you know, I just want him to know he's going to take that, and you know, that's all I got to say.
Take that. So in short, I would hope that those of you that do you know, support the quick take, you know, quick take segments and shit like that we do, I hope that you guys really, you know, got the point of all of this. You know, whether, you know, you're an aspiring entertainer or you're just a regular person, really this is more so about morals and ethics, more so than anything else. And right is right and wrong is wrong. And the question that I pose to you is, when it's all said and done, what side are you going to take? Because I for damn sure I'm going to be on the right side, the righteous motherfucking side. You know what I'm saying? And money and all that shit can't put me on the wrong side, because again, I can never stand behind a guy that puts hands on women, sexually harasses men, probably assaults men too, you know, doesn't give artists their just due, doesn't want to pay them, doesn't want to do anything, you know what I'm saying, but benefit himself and then his kids, who he probably brainwashed too into believing that all of this shit is okay. You know what I'm saying? And on that note, what are your thoughts? Please be sure as always to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.
Peace.
Take that.